this TV show that I forgot that I wanted to watch when I heard about it some years ago has the concept of racism in it. It's not conversations I want to have, and again, it's not because I'm uncomfortable with it. It's because I'm uncomfortable with the fact that you're not comfortable with it. For example, if I say what I think about the concept of races that we don't have in our species, that new reality, or the real reality, will make you uncomfortable because you are not prepared for it, you don't know what to say, you've already taken sides or an opinion, or you are incapable of human thinking tools, right? One thing I could say if I meet somebody that's insistent is I would say, hey, imagine you're God, assuming they would say yes if I question them about a God. Imagine that he gets pissed off with your ignorance, right? That in part comes from believing in a God. And he decides to make a big blender, and he's got your daughter, or your son, and your wife, and another black kid. And, the son, daughter, and wife are white like this white guy. And again, I'm not saying that the ignorance of the concept of a stigma such as racism is only with white people. I mean, it is with dark-skinned people that are, let's say, lighter or even darker than others. It's that stupid. But anyways, let's say this God blends them all up, like you would an omelet. The white eggs, the brown eggs, delicious. You don't tell the person there was a brown egg in there. Okay, but you say, hey, God would say, hey, guy, can you tell the difference which one was the black kid among your kids in all this mess of red flesh in this blender? And if you can separate it because you're so much a specialist in this subject, then I will grant your wife and kids back to life, and black kid we can leave like that if you want. So that person would say, no, of course I can't do that, that's crazy. Well, then maybe this God would say, okay, here's another thing. Okay, I'll bring them back to life, all of them, the four of them, except that I'll bring you all into a proto-society where black people have more elite status and therefore are kind of above, which is another form of ignorant stigma. Now, I wonder if that person is the kind of ignorant racist that they would say, no, I'd rather you put me in there to be with my wife and somehow separate the black kid and not bring me in a society where, it's the other way around, where the bad guys are the black guys instead of the white guys. It's that ignorant. Like, I don't know, if there was a God, you would say, hey, God, like, why do you even create people like that are that dumb, that long, and therefore a lot of suffering results? And then the guy would say, well, they know what they're doing or whatever, or we just didn't read the Bible properly, whatever it is. Well, I would like to question that God, because the kind of suffering for whatever plan they have for a lesson to be learned shouldn't last that long. It's like this God enjoys suffering if he exists. So I'd like to question, like an investigator, this God of theirs, right? It's that ridiculous, all these concepts of the failed people primates. If we could actually create an AI that can allow us to communicate with other species, we might find they might not know as much about physics, or how an internal combustion engine works, although I'm not saying all people primates do, or whatever it is, but they would also maybe not know as much, but they would know so much more about how ridiculous what we think is. They would say, do you seriously think this? You're serious. The animals would say, well, that explains a lot. Your mental illness as a species, your ignorance as a species, if we balance it out with your intelligence as a species, puts you, again, like the Doctor of Humanics has been saying, nowhere near the top 100. If you include ignorance and intelligence, and you balance them out in the equation, the species I share DNA with wouldn't even be in the top 100. This AI would allow us to point out to us. Except I kind of already know this, but you don't, because you are the chauvinistic Homo communus.